Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/spookshow. Then go over to morbidlybeautiful.com as we are now part of the Morbidly Beautiful Podcasting Network.
In the darkness we gather, horror junkies unite. Spookshow podcast keeping us up all night, talking about cult classics, the films that we adore, from Cannon to the Grindhouse. Oh, we want more. VHS memories, rewinding the past, Hammer films and Bugs Light Cast. Josh, Johnny, and Will, Tiana bringing the heat with Professor by their side. Ain't no trick, just treats. Screams in the shadows, echoes in the air. The All-American Spookshow, we ain't scared. Oh, our movie maniacs, we're in for the ride. Mutants, monsters, and that
Hello and welcome to the latest All-American Spook Show podcast. I'm Josh and I'm joined here with Tiana.
Hey.
And the Professor Smoke.
What's up?
And this week we are doing our latest Cannon Fodder. So we spun the wheel of fate, and we never know out of the 100 and something. I don't even know how many movies that we've got on that Cannon list. It's probably a couple hundred or so, give or take. But we spun the wheel and it landed on one that none of us have seen, right?
Nope.
No.
Yeah, I'd never seen this, and it's also the first time that we're doing a Jackie Chan movie here on the show in any capacity. First, I'm sure it won't be the last. I'm sure we'll do plenty more as time goes on. But we're talking about Armour of God, aka about five or six other different titles, and we'll get into that here shortly. But like I said, this is one that none of us had ever watched, so this is going to be interesting. Now, usually for Cannon Fodder, where obviously the point of this series is we watch something from the vast Cannon Films library, specifically the era of Golan Globus, because, they did exist before Golan and Globus took over, back in the 60s, I think, through the 70s, and then, kind of petered out by the mid-90s, I believe. They were pretty much done. But we're mostly focusing on, basically from 1980 to 1994. Now, I will say, too, this one is different in that, from the best we could tell, that Cannon was involved in some way, and we haven't been able to exactly figure out how Cannon was involved. Usually when we do this, we have Austin Trunick, author of the Cannon Film Guide, come on and do his Cannon Chronicles little bit, and he'll give some background information. Well, I messaged with him back and forth, and he struggled to find any true connection to this. But he saw the same things that I saw, that like on its IMDb page and on its Wikipedia page, this thing was the Cannon Group and Golan Globus had something to do with it, but we just couldn't figure out exactly what. But we'll get into that here shortly. Before we take the deep dive, though, I want to remind you to go check out aaspookshow.com. That's the center of the Spook Show universe. From there, you can go listen to our past podcast archives. Go to our YouTube channel, and from there, you can watch series such as Grindhouse Gutter, Video Vortex, Hammer Horror and Order. So those are lots of fun. We do those every month, pretty much weekly. And also, we have tons of fun over on Patreon. If you become a patron at patreon.com/aaspookshow, every month you'll get a video minisode, which includes the Library of the Professor. And you'll also get Crapster Piece Theater, which is torture for us, but lots of laughs for you, right? Every month we nominate 4 or 5 of the crappiest movies we can think of. You guys vote on it on all of our socials and everything. And then that following month, we have to watch it. So this month, we'll be at the end of the month, we'll be talking about Junior. That Arnold Schwarzenegger classic, in air quotes, classic.
Classic.
Yeah. Classic something.
By year, by the time it came out, by technically, I guess.
Yeah. It's even in the old category by our standards, right? But yeah, I haven't seen that in so long. I'm not looking forward to it. I
haven't seen it since back then.
That was Donnie's nomination, so he doesn't have to be there. And trust me, he ain't going to be there, and I don't blame him. We'll see. I mean, maybe there's some secret value, entertainment value there because it's Schwarzenegger. It's Danny DeVito. Maybe years later we can find more enjoyment in it now than we did back then. Who knows? We'll find out. But if you want to hear what we got to say about that, you can only listen to that by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Spookshow. So without any further ado, we'll go ahead and toss to the trailer for Armour of God.
Jackie Chan, the world's #1 action hero. Star of Operation Condor, Rumble in the Bronx, and Super Cop is back, on the loose, and in your face.
Hi.
It's pure Chan excitement, pure Chan adventure, and pure Chan dynamite.
Need a light?
From director and star Jackie Chan. Operation Condor 2, The Armour of the Gods.
All right, so there's the trailer for that. So like I said off the top, this is one that we had never seen before, so I think this will be interesting for that. But you know, really, for me, you kind of know what to expect with a Jackie Chan movie. It's going to be over-the-top action. You're going to see him do a lot of crazy stunts because, hell, for all I know, to this day, he still does his own stunts. I don't know. Pretty much for the dude's entire career. He's been notorious for always doing his own shit, and we'll get into some of that with this one. This one is somewhat notorious, this movie, for one stunt that actually almost killed him. And, you know, and you actually see it in the credits, and we'll get into that here in a little bit. But yeah, this, you know, but my point is, you know what to expect from a Jackie Chan movie, and you get quite a bit of that in this, although there's a little bit kind of in the middle of the movie that's not quite like a regular Jackie Chan movie. And we'll get into some of the reasons, I think, from what I read, why that probably is. But before we, you know, get into the blow-by-blow and all that stuff, I'll go ahead and throw out some background information. I found a number of alternate titles for this movie, including the original title. I'm assuming this is the, Hong Kong Chinese title, something like that. Lung Hing Fu Dai, which I guess interprets to Big Brother Dragon, Little Brother Tiger. And that's the original title. Multiple other titles, including Mr. Dynamite in France. Thunder.
For that one particular scene, I guess.
Yeah, you're probably right. I didn't even think about that. Thunder Arm, which was the Japanese English title. Operation Condor 2, which apparently that's what it got released here on DVD here in the United States. And then there was another title that I saw somewhere where it was just Operation Condor 2, Armour of God. So there was some variation of that in a couple of countries and stuff. The funny thing about that is like years later, so there were two sequels of this movie. There was Armour of God 2, Operation Condor, which came out in 1991. And then many years later in 2012, CZ-12 came out, which was the third of the series. This movie was released in 1986 in Japan. Right, August 16th, 1986 in Japan, but it never played theatrically here in the United States. And it never got any kind of proper release here in the U.S. all the way until September 14th, 1999, when I guess it came out on VHS and DVD.
Damn.
And that was when it came out, when the second movie came out. So Operation Condor comes out, or this is where it gets confusing. Armour of God 2, Operation Condor comes out. It gets released here in the United States, I think even has a theatrical run. So because of that movie, they finally released this movie here in the United States and called it Operation Condor 2. So it's almost like that Missing in Action series where it's like, you know, they kind of mix the titles up and all of a sudden they just turned this one into a sequel prequel. This one didn't actually see the light of day here. So that might be a big reason why none of us have watched it. You know, because it never got a theatrical release here, and best I could tell, unless you had some bootleg or some copy of it or something like that, you know, it wouldn't have come on TV or anything until, you know, at least past 1999. So I'm sure that probably has a big reason why none of us had seen it. And by then, too, Jackie Chan had become a big star here, right? You know, instead of just, you know, all the movies that he had made. God, I mean, because I think Jackie Chan started back like when he was a kid in the 60s or something, right? I mean, he's been making movies, in Hong Kong and stuff like since the 70s, right?
Yeah, like traditional kung fu movies, which we'll probably get to on one of his on the Grindhouse, because his early kung fu films definitely fit in that Grindhouse, kung fu genre, like Drunken Master and whatnot.
This movie was produced. Now, here's where the hairy situation with Cannon comes in. This movie was produced by Golden Harvest, and there's no disputing that. This is the Golden Harvest movie as far as like the production of the movie. Any version you see, they're like front and center, right? But then it was also produced by Golden Way Films Limited, the Cannon Group, Inc., and Golden Globus Productions. But it was not distributed by them. It was distributed by Golden Harvest, and then here in the U.S., many years later, that 1999 release, it was distributed here in the U.S. by Miramax Films. So that's where I figured there might be some crossover with Cannon. Was like, well, maybe they distributed it. Because, we ran into that with Mannequin and maybe one or two others, like Emmanuel 4 or something, where like they didn't produce it, but they distributed it in, Brazil or some shit. So it kind of counted. This one, it's not even there. My guess is it might be in where they filmed it. That might be where Cannon's involvement comes in. That's just a spitball guess by me. Because this thing was filmed in parts of Croatia, Slovenia, Austria, the Philippines, Spain, France, and Morocco. So all over the place for a budget of $15 million. I have no idea, but my guess is maybe they had some hookups or something in one of those countries and got involved in some way in helping them produce it or shoot something so they got a production credit. Because otherwise, even Austin, that's why he's not on the show, is that he couldn't find any direct connections. And this dude's got all the information you could possibly imagine on Cannon Films. I mean, he looked through his archives. He's looking through like the 1986 production notes and catalogs and shit and couldn't find anything. It wasn't on their slate. So I'm guessing it was probably just in credit alone in some way and not really any true production help. That'd just be my guess.
Yeah, the only other explanation is somebody thought it was that and erroneously added that information to maybe IMDb, and then whoever put the information in Wikipedia went to the IMDb page and put that information.
That's
in
possible.
The Wikipedia page.
That's possible.
But who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be good to know at some point. Maybe somebody will have, or maybe we'll stumble across the information somewhere.
I dug around as best I could, and trust me, if Austin Trunick can't find it, the odds of us finding it are pretty slim, to be honest with you. If he didn't even see any mention of it. But it is kind of weird, but it did pop up on our lists of Cannon movies, so we went with it. No surprise, the movie is rated R. Total runtime of 1 hour and 28 minutes, and on IMDb it's listed as an action-adventure comedy. No question about that. If you've watched a Jackie Chan movie, you know you're going to get tons of comedy too, right? Like I said, it was done for a budget of $15 million, and even though it never got a U.S. theatrical release, it still went on to a gross, best I could tell, of about $16 million. So, and at one time, now this is, I'm assuming, before Hong Kong started playing, Hollywood productions and big productions, this was the highest grossing movie in Hong Kong history up until, eventually it got blown out of the water.
Yeah.
As of the release of this, it had made the most money of any Hong Kong movie in their box office. So what we had mentioned earlier, where Jackie Chan almost got killed. So apparently there was a scene in the movie where he leaps from a tree onto a ledge, which for him is a pretty innocuous, simple stunt. Well, apparently when he did this, he goes to grab the branch, and the branch snapped, and he fell straight to the ground, and he cracked his skull. So much so that apparently a part of the bone of his skull went into his brain, and he had to have a 8-hour surgery to save his life. And to this day, he has a hole in his skull that's, I guess, that's plugged up with plastic, and it affected the hearing in his right ear. So this is the movie that
some of that
almost killed Jackie Chan.
And that is actually part of it is in the end credits.
Yeah, you see it. Yeah, like they kind of cut from it if you go back and watch it. Like you see him jump out and grab and then fall.
So, you see the branch break or whatever, and then they kind of
you can tell the camera's like, oh shit, it kind of goes up and you don't see him hit the ground. And then it's just a couple shots of them like putting him in an ambulance and getting him out of there, right? So
bleeding. You can see where he's bleeding from. Well, like you said, probably where that back of his head, I guess.
Yeah,
looked like his ear. They
right
had the bandage on his ear, across his ear, and back of his head.
Yep. So he's extremely lucky that he wasn't killed right there. Now, what I was talking about as far as like how that may or may not have affected the production of this movie, apparently they did, for obvious reasons, have to delay filming of this. And he was directing the movie. Jackie Chan was directing the movie. Well, they brought in another director to finish it up after that, and that was Eric Sang. Now, apparently, Eric Sang is this isn't the type of movie he's known for. Like, he's not the slapsticky comedy action guy. I think he's more of a straightforward action guy. So they said that might be where you get the clash of styles here, where like the beginning of the movie is real. If you notice too, his hair is short at the beginning of the movie. And then after that, his hair is like the more trademark longer. Well, that's because of the delay. And there was something I read about him having a superstition about it. Like ever since then, like he always had long hair. He decided to cut his hair for this. He has the accident where it almost kills him. So then he's like, nope, I'm growing my hair back out. That, and that's pretty much why he always has the longer hair from then on. They believe the belief is that like parts of the movie that were filmed before the accident are your more traditional Jackie Chan slapstick action stuff. And then that middle of the movie where there's not quite as much action going on in certain parts, that might have been the stuff after the accident. And Eric Sang took over and like they kind of pumped the brakes a little bit, because of the accident. So that might be why it's kind of frenetic in that way, where it's, there's still action, but it's not as crazy as like say the stuff at the beginning and some of that stuff you see at the end. Like, like sliding down a hill with, there's a whole chase scene of like dudes on shields sliding down a hill. I would imagine that was one of the first things they did, not one of the last things they did.
Yeah. There's also a lot of vehicle stunts in this one, at a certain portion of the movie anyways.
Yeah, what kind of car? I know it was some Mitsubishi, but that looked
Mitsubishi thing, yeah.
It almost looked kind of like, to me in some ways, it almost had like a little bit of a Cybertruck look to it. Not quite the same, obviously, but like a little bit, right? You can see
just because of the angles were like sharp, hard-edged angles or whatever.
It's a weird-looking car.
Rather than, And I want the model that comes with the extra sidecar motorcycle that shoots out the front of it. Like that.
Yeah, like the funny thing about that was, as I'm sitting there watching, I'm like, they didn't set this up as like a James Bond Mission Impossible type car, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, what the fuck? Did I miss something? I don't think so.
They definitely set it up though, like a Raiders of the Lost Ark type thing, right? At the beginning, beginning intro stuff and some of the later stuff too. It kind of becomes Raiders of the Lost Ark, a little bit of Temple of Doom with a sort of a cult type thing going on in there, and and then like I said, James Bond for no reason popping up, that kind of thing. It sort of reminds me of this other crazy kind of action Asian movie called Mad Mission, where it's just a whole bunch of stuff going on, spy film versus action adventure stuff, just craziness. Kind of reminds me of that movie, only not quite as zany as that one.
I have to think, kind of like what we were just talking about, where like, he had the accident and everything. That had to play into some of the story stuff too. Like they had to have changed some stuff after that, and that's why it kind of plays out the way it does. Because I don't know, in some parts it's really fucking weird. The dream sequences and there's a couple other spots where it's just like, what the hell is going on here? And I know some of that's just the way these movies are made, but
But yeah, the scene of the not misdirection type thing, but of the the scene with the girl and she's in his room, and then the other girl's coming out. They're doing all that kind of the more, like you said, probably focusing more on the slapstick element, probably because of a result of the accident and him still, whatever the case may be, whether he's still, I don't know how long was it? Did you say it was delayed by?
I want to say, just off the top of my head without having it in front of me, I want to say it was around 6 months.
About 6 months,
yeah.
So, I mean, he probably still was recovering from the whole,
near-death
shock of it and the physical aspect of it and everything. So, who knows? It might have been rewritten slightly for all that middle portion stuff that was going on.
Let's see. He was born in 1954, so he's roughly about 30 here, give or take a couple years. So, yeah, something like that happens to you at that age, man, that might slow you down a nudge. As much as Jackie Chan is ever going to be slowed down, right?
Yeah.
Because obviously we know that he goes on to do 1,000 of these type of movies over the next 30 years. Right?
Yeah.
It didn't slow him down that much, but at least for this movie, I think it did a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and do that.
That had to be, yeah. I mean, just that little bit of footage they show at the end is pretty damn intense,
Yeah.
Time for refreshment. Refreshment. For your enjoyment, there's hot, fresh popcorn. tempting, delicious hot dogs, and so many kinds of ice cream. And, of course, sparkling, delicious, ice-cold Coca-Cola for everybody at the refreshment counter now.
For you, the listeners of the All-American Spook Show podcast, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. So I went over to audible.com and I just typed in Jackie Chan to see what would pop up. And what do you know, we actually get a couple things here. A lot of stuff is unrelated, like maybe it's got the name Chan or Jackie in it. But the top two titles actually are things by him. Never Grow Up by Jackie Chan and Zumo. That one is 9.5 hours long, so I'm assuming it's some type of biography. Well, there's another one called I Am Jackie Chan, My Life in Action by Jackie Chan. That's from 2009. That one's just over 3.5 hours long, so maybe that's more of the biography. And the other one is, because the other one looks like it came out in 2018, so a more recent one, the Never Grow Up book. But either way, those would be some interesting listens over on Audible. So if you're a fan of Jackie Chan, you might, if you haven't listened or read those, you might want to. And to get your free audiobook, one of those copies, go to audibletrial.com/spookshow. Again, that's audibletrial.com/spookshow for your free audiobook. So I'm going to hop back over to IMDb and click on plot summaries and see if there's something that can easily explain this, because I doubt you can easily explain some of this shit. We got a couple here. We got the short one. Asian Hawk, Jackie Chan, and his bumbling sidekick are sent on a quest through Europe to find a mysterious treasure held by a shadowy organization of monks. But yeah, pretty well sums it up, right? Got the slightly longer one here. Jackie Chan stars as Asian Hawk, an Indiana Jones-style adventurer looking to make a fortune in exotic antiquities. After Hawk discovers a mysterious sword in Africa, a band of Satan-worshipping monks kidnap his ex-girlfriend Lorelei, demanding the sword as ransom, as well as other pieces of the legendary Armour of God, a magical outfit dating back to the Crusades. That was one thing I was kind of bummed about, is that you never got to see the culmination of the Armour of God. Like, what exactly would happen if you put it together, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you kind of want, it's kind of like, well, again, it kind of reminds me of Raiders of the Lost Ark and the Ark of the Covenant, right? Yeah. But you got the payoff with Raiders of the Lost Ark. You definitely see,
you see them
people melting down and all kinds of stuff happening. But yeah, you don't get somebody wielding the armor of God and like slashing two people away.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was expecting here, is like some face melting or something. Like,
yeah,
there needs to be some apocalyptic shit. Somebody puts it on or they put it together and like, oh shit, and then no, you never get that. But nope. you do get to see him jump out of a cave onto the top of a hot air balloon. So
yeah,
it's an even trade.
That was pretty intense. Yeah. And then sliding down the balloon and then trying to get into the basket. Eventually, he does get in the basket. Right?
Yeah. My only question is,
as the end credits are coming up,
how fucking high up was this cave? Like, he jumps out. All of a sudden,
that was
like
crazy
fucking
energy.
base
like,
jumping in the sky.
Yeah. It's like this cave is 30,000 feet in the air. It's like, it's crazy.
Now, I read, the behind the curtain shit, the way they did that was like, they just kind of made it, they had him jump off the edge of a cliff or something, and he's kind of like base jumping or something. And then cut to what they actually did was he jumped out of a plane.
Out of a plane,
yeah. And then landed on top of the hot air. Yeah, oh, yeah. Because it almost reminded me of that scene from the Blues Brothers where the car goes off the cliff and it just falls for like a mile. The cop car and the neo-Nazis, he turns to him, I've always loved you. And then the car, it almost reminded me of that though. Like, it's like, what the hell? How high up was this mountain? I didn't even know it was a mountain. What is this?
No, it's very jarring. That
screams to me like Jackie Chan wanted to do this awesome stunt, so we got to figure out a way to make it make some kind of sense to fit it in here, because he's going to jump from a plane on top of a hot air balloon. We're getting it in there. But spoiler alert, that's the end of the movie. But that still doesn't give a damn thing away, because like, really, if you think about it plot wise, it's like, all right, well, the end. Nothing to do with anything. The very beginning of the movie, though. Let's rewind and go back to that. It's very Indiana Jones, like you said. Like, he's coming into this. What would this be, like some type of Amazonian, like African type of tribe or something? I don't even know what. It's like some native tribe.
Yeah,
right.
Because I don't think they say where. Right. I don't know if it's supposed to be South America or. or somewhere in Africa. Or it doesn't really say.
Yeah.
It doesn't really give you any. I mean, there's they're the West Wing of the Idol and whatever. Also, it kind of could be. I mean, I thought it was sort of South American because it reminded me of like something Incan or Aztec type thing, sort of. But
it's some native tribe worshiping a statue, and the statue has a sword. So he swings in and steals the sword, but there's still an element of comedy to it, right? Like he goes and kicks off or knocks off the head of the statue, and then all of a sudden he puts his head up there and is like mocking the god,
whatever, the god of the statue.
I love the gibberish. He's just
oh, at that part I was like, is this in English or is it in? Wait, no, that's not Chinese.
No, that's nothing. That's just gibberish. But it knocks the head off that statue, and then it lands perfectly without killing anybody. Like, what are the odds of that, right?
Yeah, right between because there was a sacrificial woman right on the altar below.
Yeah,
and then the group of the tribe members about 10 feet from her or whatever, and it lands directly between her and the tribe members.
Yeah, doesn't hit anybody. I love the smoke bomb in the Kirin beer when he's got the can of beer. There's a smoke bomb in there. That's the weird element. Like, there's a couple of times in here where there's like this weird element of James Bond, like that and the car, a couple other spots. So it definitely is, like you said, a mix of Indiana Jones meets Mission Impossible meets James Bond with some slapsticky, over the top comedy mixed in. It's a weird mix, but it's an entertainment.
And of course, martial arts. Martial arts can always be thrown in there, even if it's not a martial arts movie. Jackie Chan's he's gonna lay down some kung fu somewhere.
Yeah, there's going to be like 5 or 6 dudes that are going to circle around you and wait their turn to get their ass beat. That's just what these movies They don't all attack at once. They just one by one, or eventually they all jump on him and then they get thrown off. Like you're going to see that in one of these movies.
Because the other one's just hanging back there like, did you see what happened to Fred just now? Yes, my turn.
Yeah. That scene, though, where there's like the chase scene of the dude sliding down the mountain, that's something you would only see in a Jackie Chan movie. Only he could have a chase scene with a bunch of dudes ass sliding down a mountain.
Did you say ass sliding?
Yeah,
that reminds me of Rad. No.
Not the Rad way.
Oh, not the Rad way.
Yeah, this is the Chan way. On some shields or something down a mountain. Did you like? Would you buy an album from his band, The Losers? I was like, at first I was just like, this is just some random cutaway of a band called The Losers. And then I look over on the left and there's Jackie Chan. I'm like, wait a minute, what the? Is that him? Like, is he just, are we not supposed to notice it's him or we are? And then I'm like, okay, we are, like, what kind of weird career path did this dude have? Like, he's in like a boy band or whatever that band is, some kind of cheesy pop band. And then like, he left the band and became a treasure hunter. Like, what the, how do you make that leap? That's what we should have done straight out of college.
Like, treasure hunting or the band.
Treasure hunt. Well, both. I mean, you can do both. He's proving that. But we should have went straight into treasure hunting. We wouldn't be here talking about this movie right now if we had. Our luck is we probably would have found the Ark of the Covenant and had our face melted off. So maybe it's better we didn't. Oh, there's a couple of times in this movie where it just breaks out in a song for a couple of minutes, or it's almost like a music video or something. When you're introduced to his friend. Alan, and he's singing that song. It's Midnight Rider. I don't know what damn song that is, but he's singing about I'm the Midnight Rider or something is what he's singing about. And there's in the middle of that, I think they're cutting back and forth. That dude's singing and they're cutting back kind of interspliced with Jackie Chan doing some stuff. And then that one photographer gets like, which is probably the goriest thing.
Yeah. That was badass.
Yeah. It's like, and that was one thing I saw that like that was unlike a Jackie Chan movie as well.
Yeah,
like
it's usually not that kind of graphic violence.
Yeah. And I think they kind of attributed that part to Eric Sang because apparently in his movies that are more real action oriented instead of funny action, you would see that in his type of movies. So that's probably something he threw in there, but at least you did get a little bit of gore here, right? Like I was like, oh shit.
Yeah. It's a cool shot because the guy's just like, for whatever he's down there, I'm going to take a photo of this, boom, and then AKs or whatever come out.
It comes out of nowhere with his fucking camera. And then
and I think one got put through the camera. The first bullet hit the camera lens through his head, I guess, and then his eye, his other eye, and then his body. Or whatever.
Yeah. It definitely had, in some ways, especially that, like it had a little bit of like that Italian Spanish
Yes,
type of
yeah.
feel to it in certain ways. You know, like those type of
Yeah, I was
movies
about
from
to
the
say
70s.
that. In that scene, but in more scenes too. In like the and I don't know, I didn't go this deep into it to see who the cinematographer was and see if there was any sort of, because they shot in a lot of European countries. I wonder if they had European related, people, technical people in those countries that they used or whatever or not. But some of the shots looked very European, like the wide angle shots of these landscapes and things and whatnot, reminded me of Italian movies from that same era or whatever.
It looks like there's a number of cinematographers on this because it looks like there's listed as 4 directors of photography on this. You've got Chin Yu Jo, then you've got Peter Nagore, Robert Thompson, and Arthur Wong. So,
okay. So yeah, probably was some mixture of them for various areas, right? Probably.
Yeah. And once again, when you've got Jackie Chan and probably some of his crew of guys, and then you bring in another director after the accident and stuff, so you probably get some weird mix here on the production side as well. When Alan, his friend Alan, and they meet up, like, and it's supposedly it is the first time they've been around each other for years because there was a little bit of a split up because they're fighting over a girl, and he brings he's looking for him for help. Jackie Chan is who he's looking for, and he brings him a gift of bean curd. What the fuck? But like any other 80s movie, it's not complete without a travel montage, right?
Oh, yeah.
That one guy, I think Alan, like he's basically sitting on the damn trunk of that car for portions of that trip, isn't he?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
It was. I mean, it's not like there wasn't room in the car. I mean,
yeah.
Later, so he's in the car. Actually, they show that scene where she's sleeping in the passenger seat and Alan or whatever sleeping in the back seat, and then Jackie Chan sleeping. It's kind of like reminded me of the National Lampoon's Vacation scene when they're all sleeping in the car, including Clark.
Yeah.
Except I expected some slapstick there, but it didn't. It just goes to the next scene and they're fine. Didn't show any kind of slapstick of the car veering off into whatever.
Yeah, I think it was sometime after that to get to wherever they're going, and then then there's that weirdly placed dream sequence.
Yeah.
Jackie Chan falls asleep, and then he has this weird dream. I don't know. It was like, what the hell is this? Now, I did see where apparently there are various cuts of this movie, by the way. Multiple, depending on what country. So I don't know. And that might be another part of the canon thing too. Like the version that I saw, I looked at the credits at the beginning and the end, and I didn't see the word canon or Golden Globus or anything anywhere.
Yeah.
But maybe in some other country, some other cut of this movie, it might be in there somewhere. I don't know. So if anybody's listening out there in the wide world, there are multiple versions of this out there. So we might be talking about stuff. You're like, oh, I just watched this movie and I didn't see that shit because there were certain things that were cut out, including that dream sequence. That was, and it was very brief anyways, and kind of like didn't really have anything to do with anything, but that was cut out. The concert scene, remember his band, The Losers? That was cut out in the Miramax version. The scene where May, a little bit later on, where she's disguised as a prostitute who has the whole scene with the monk or whatever, they cut all that out. Apparently there's an extended version of the slapstick sequence, where Alan is hiding in May's room and there's like that back and forth of them hiding in the rooms and shit. There's somewhere out there's an extended version of that. Yeah. Depending on, that's the version that I watched. I saw all that stuff. So depending on what version you're watching, you may or may not have seen that stuff, maybe on the Miramax DVD or something like that. I don't know. The one that I watched, I found randomly on the internet. I'll let you go find it yourself out there in internet land. I won't say where, but it's out there. And this one was English dubbed, but I don't think it's the same version of the movie that you would see. It's not, say, the U.S. version of the movie. I think it's another country's version of the movie with English dubbed in it, the one that we watched. So
yeah, and English dubbing sounded, I'm pretty familiar with a lot of these movies from that era, and it didn't sound like, it sounded more like anime voice actors than your typical kung fu Hong Kong movie, voice actors of the time, which, it was you kind of get used to them. I don't know their names, but you get used to hearing various voices because they do all these movies all the time. And I didn't hear anybody recognize that one other than it, again, sounded like anime.
Yeah, it was.
That you might have heard about it.
I mean, it allowed me to watch it without having to read, but it was kind of a shitty dub. The audio was kind of, not the best dubbed version, but I did see somewhere as well that the Miramax I guess, DVD or VHS version that came out here in the U.S., that did have some Jackie Chan involvement, where I think he actually may have dubbed his own voice in English in that one. I could be mistaken, but I believe that's what I read. You know, that could be a slightly different experience if you watch that version of it. I don't even know if it's a thing where it's like, would this thing even be in print anymore? I don't know. You know, like.
Well, I know I saw that. I think it's a Region B. You know, 88 Films, the DVD Blu-ray distributor. They put out apparently what I saw people saying was the definitive version of it. I don't know what year that DVD came out, but I know it was Region B. I don't know that it's been released over here in a deluxe edition like that one.
Yeah, I mean I didn't see all the intricate versions that were released here in the U.S., so I'm not sure. And remember, like I said, for here it was like, well, this is the sequel to Operation Condor, so that was kind of the way it was marketed when Miramax released that in 1999. I don't know how much there has been changes to that in the years since. You know, that one even had a new musical score in it. With the one that had, you know, for Miramax that had Chan's involvement. So it might, like I said, it might be a totally different experience watching that one with some of these scenes cut out, different music and his dub. It'd be like watching a different movie. There was some of the similar cuts in the Spanish Region 2 release, but DVD releases in Hong Kong, Australia, and the rest of Europe are uncut. So I'm thinking that we might have seen some Hong Kong, Australian, European version of the movie that was dubbed in English poorly. I think is what we watched.
Yeah. Well, just looking at this, I kind of pulled up this 88 Films disc real quick and it's got it's a 2-disc set. I think there might have been a deluxe edition one. Maybe it had some more stuff, but the disc 1 has the original Hong Kong theatrical cut, which is 98 minutes, which I know that's the version we watched.
Yeah.
Because I remember seeing an hour and 38 minutes on the runtime on it. They also had a newly remastered English subtitles, I guess, on that release too.
Which has got to sound better.
Yeah. And then this 2 has an international cut, which is the international cut is that shorter one, like you're probably saying. It's 88 minutes long.
Yeah. Yeah, and remember
that's a decent amount of cut.
And that's the runtime that is listed on IMDb, an hour and 28 minutes. Okay. That's 88 minutes.
10 minutes they cut out of it, right?
Yeah, which would probably be that dream sequence and all that other shit that I was just talking about. So that jives. Because, you take out that musical performance, the dream sequence, and a couple other things, that's easily knocking out 10 minutes of this movie. And frankly, you probably don't miss it.
Yeah.
Some of that stuff almost makes it feel like you're watching House again. I was like, what the hell's going on here? But in a good way.
There's a lot of...
Not like in a bad way, but in a weird, like, what the fuck is going on here way, you know?
Well, like you said, there very well could be rewrites due to his accident and then, having the delay and all that stuff. And who knows some of that. Because, it definitely changed. The tone of the movie changed. And, I mean, maybe it was originally written that way, too. It just seemed different by the time you get to the middle of it.
One thing that I hope is in every version is when he gives May a piece of toast that's got some rotten butter on it. What the fuck? I don't like you. So here, eat this rotten butter. He's like, God, I think this stuff is turned. Yeah, I know. As he's putting his normal spread on the bread.
Yeah, he was pretty. He was pretty much an asshole to her for most of the movie, right? What about the scene where she's dressed up when they're going to the monk's place as a call girl, right? They're trying to get her in there to infiltrate as a call girl. Mm-hmm. After that scene later on, though, her and Jackie Chan are about to have a moment. Like, it looks like they're about to kiss, right? They are about to kiss. And then he's like, how much do I owe you for this? Or something like that. Yeah. Like he's basically making a throwback joke to the call girl bit.
Yeah.
And then she slaps him or whatever, right?
I like that when she's a call girl, a whore. And the guy's like, you're not a call girl. You're too well bred, is what he says. And her line is, this is the line of the movie for me. Her line is, I'm not well bred. I'm a call girl. That's her response to that. Are you a fan, like, generally of Jackie Chan movies, or I guess more specifically of the slapstick comedy elements that he always has? I mean, do you like that?
Yeah, I'll put it this way. I like it. I'm fine with it when it's Jackie Chan. I mean, I know that there's a whole subgenre of that, probably started by Jackie Chan, where it's like Asian films that have that huge slapstick element in it. And I think it takes somebody talented like Jackie Chan to pull that off, to have stunts and action and all that stuff on top of a complete slapstick moment in the middle of the action. I think that's also kind of one of his signature things. It could be some of the craziest stunt you've ever seen, and then he'll put some spin on it that makes it also one of the funniest things you've seen in an action movie or something. Just oddball stuff. So that type of stuff, yeah. And I mean, I love his early stuff too. I grew up with before that stuff, which would have been like the thing I mentioned earlier, Drunken Master, and all these Saturday afternoon kung fu theater type movies or whatever. Before he made it big with like the Big Brawl. That was one I remember being on HBO or Cinemax or Movie Channel all the time. They used to play the Big Brawl, and I don't know if that was his breakout, first American release or film or not or whatever. I just remember it being all over the place. And that, besides the early kung fu films, that was the first one I saw. And that one didn't really have a whole lot of slapstick in it because it wasn't really made that way. He didn't make it. He was just in an American film, and I think it was directed by was it Robert Klaus? I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was the guy that directed Enter the Dragon. But I could be wrong on that. But yeah, that was. Then after that, I guess he started getting creative reign on his movies, and then started throwing in more of that slapstick element. Yeah, but I enjoy them.
In a lot of ways, he really is kind of the complete package as far as like just an action star. Just beyond the fact that he can do his own stunts and everything. I mean, that's obviously super impressive, and he's fucking crazy.
Yes.
But I think he's a legitimately good actor, especially the more he did it in years later, and you see it a little bit more the older he got. I haven't watched a lot of his stuff in the last decade or so, but you could tell he became a better actor as time went on as well, and he actually could from time to time pull off a good serious role, but obviously his bread and butter is the comedy action stuff, and not many pulled it off as consistently, I think, as he did for so long. And I guess still continues to this day.
Like you said, I haven't seen as many of his newer films, the very new ones in the last 10 years or so.
Yeah. And like I said, when I looked at his, filmography, he's still making stuff. You just, I guess, I think a lot of it is, not as, a lot of his stuff isn't released here in the U.S. as much as it was for a while there. Say what, mid to late 90s until maybe 10 or 15 years ago. I mean, he was a pretty big Hollywood star there for, he achieved heights here, instead of just stuff that was filmed there and brought over here, like most of his stuff.
Yeah.
Like the, now I'm blanking. The ones with Chris Tucker.
Yeah.
The Rush Hour movies. Yeah. I mean, I think those did pretty well, right?
Yeah.
Although there was one movie that was with, was it Shanghai Noon or something like that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, dude, I hated that. I hated that shit. It didn't. Maybe it was just the wrong time for me to watch it or something. It just didn't strike me as like.
Yeah, I mean, I was a fan of those. But in fact, I've only ever seen the first one. I think wasn't there at least 2 or 3?
I think so. It's like Shanghai Nights, and Shanghai Noon, or something like that. Yeah, there was at least a couple of them. I don't know. It just didn't. It didn't strike me as good at the time, So I didn't like that one. But maybe one of these days I'll go back and check them out and see if they're got any better. But. Yeah, I mean, he had a run. He had, you just look at his filmography there. He had a pretty big Hollywood run there in the 2000s, in the aughts.
Yeah.
Then I guess he kind of.
Speaking of, you said run. Speaking of run, what was it? Wasn't he in Cannonball Run or Cannonball Run 2? He was in the. Pretty sure he was, right? Small scene inside the because there was the Japanese crew in one of the cars.
Yeah,
pretty sure he was in there.
Let's see. As an actor, at least.
I mean, Chinese. I said Japanese. I meant Chinese crew in one of those cars. Sorry.
As far as an actor is concerned, he's done a lot of voice work and stuff here lately. But yeah, he's still producing stuff. Most recent release was a movie earlier this year called A Legend. So I obviously haven't seen that, but he's still making stuff. Like multiple films last year. Does a lot of voice work and stuff. So he's still heavy working, and the dude's been in acting and stuff since he was a kid in the 50s or 60s, something like that. I think was one of his very first roles. 145 acting credits that date all the way back to, and let's see, he had a small role as a kid in 1962's Big and Little Wong Tin Bar. But as far as, and then a bunch of uncredited thing, but as far as his first credited role, and this was as under the name, not Jackie Chan, under the name Yin Lung Chin. He was in a movie in 1973 called Not Scared to Die. And then, a handful of other uncredited roles, including with Bruce Lee in Enter the Dragon. He had an uncredited role in that as a thug in prison in 1973. So So yeah, he
I'm
goes
pretty sure.
all the way back.
I think I saw a documentary on Bruce Lee, and then where I think he was in some even earlier ones, maybe Chinese Connection, even where he was just one of the, extras that gets beat up by Bruce.
Well, I see what Fist of Fury.
Yeah, Fist of Fury.
Yeah, there's
now there's a whole other thing. There's a whole other thing that we'll get into when we do. Maybe we'll do a spotlight on Bruce Lee. There was retitling of his movies, like The Big Boss. It was called The Big Boss in Hong Kong and stuff or whatever, the English title. And then it was, I think, was that one Chinese Connection over here? I think, there's, and then Chinese Connection was Fist of Fury, and there was confusion over that, some of those titles back then. Return of the Dragon was another name, or I forget the other name of that movie, but it was Return of the Dragon over here. So, there's a whole confusing thing of the name.
And as we talked about, even with this movie, how it has like 5 or 6 different titles, you might have seen, any number of those anywhere, but it's the same movie, but you wouldn't know it if you're just looking at the titles. You'd be like, Thunderarm, what the hell is this? If you were in Japan, Thunderarm. Or what was the other one? Mr. Dynamite? Yeah. Mr. Dynamite, what the hell? Well, I guess that'll pretty much put a wrap on talking about the movie itself. So I guess the only thing we're left with is what are our thoughts on it? So I guess I'll go first. This is, it's an entertaining movie, but I really do think you have to kind of I wouldn't say necessarily you have to go watch other Jackie Chan movies to appreciate this one, but it would help if you have, because then you know kind of what to expect. If you've never watched any Jackie Chan movies, I don't know if this is the very first one you should start with. There's probably a couple other better examples, but this one's pretty good. I enjoyed it. As far as on the Cannon scale, though, oh boy, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. Well, like you said, we don't know what the connection is, other than it being credits in IMDb and Wikipedia for it. So, but as far as the feeling of the movie, the feeling of the movie is kind of wacky and zany, but it's in that Hong Kong Jackie Chan kind of wacky and zany, not necessarily the Cannon Films kind of crazy action wacky zaniness,
Yeah, and
I don't know,
kind of in the Golden Harvest ways of
yeah. I don't see too much influence of Cannon on there anymore for me particularly.
There is a little bit in the look, because it doesn't.
Yeah.
The production value of the movie kind of looks a little bit like some Cannon releases of the time, but a lot of movies did at the time, so it's kind of hard to, pinpoint anything there. Yeah. I'm betting you their involvement had to be in one of those countries. Maybe they had some hookup for Golden Harvest and hey, we'll help you produce it in Morocco or some shit, like these scenes that you need. If you just give us some kind of producing credit somewhere, we'll hook you up or something. That's probably about the extent of it. But in that regard, though, just comparing it to other Cannon movies is tough. But I enjoyed it. There's fun to be had, and if you like Jackie Chan movies, you're going to get plenty of action. Right. It's not as nonstop action as some of his other movies, but there's some cool stuff going on here, and obviously you have to give it a bump for the fact that he almost got killed doing it. So I guess I'll go with 3 cannonballs out of 5. So, I would definitely check it out. I would recommend it, but I wouldn't necessarily say for me this would, if you've never seen a Jackie Chan movie, don't start here. Maybe go check out a couple other flicks before you come back and revisit this. I'll say that. Maybe go check out Police Story or something like that. Tiana, what do you say? Where are you at? What are your thoughts and what's your rating on it?
I liked this one. This was a fun one because I think this is the actual first Jackie Chan.
Oh wow!
I've seen bits and pieces of it, but not Jackie Chan film. Yeah. I've seen Rush Hour and Hollywood stuff, but I'm pretty sure this was the first time I seen
a Chinese
Hong Kong. Yeah. And I really enjoyed it. So I'm going to give it 3 cannonballs also.
So maybe this is something you should watch as your first Jackie Chan movie then.
Yeah.
that should tell you all you need to know that I said that, and then say Police Story and a couple others. I think you'll really love those if you like this.
Yeah.
Smoke, what do you say?
Yeah. This is the first time I've seen this movie, and as we talked about, it's not get graded against Cannon's other films or whatever that doesn't have very tenuous, if at all, has that Cannon connection. Like I said, maybe at some point, or maybe also we'll get to the bottom of the Cannon connection on this movie. Maybe it's on that 88 film disc, because God knows there was enough I was looking, like I said, through all the special features. There's a ton of commentary tracks. Maybe somebody mentioned that or something. But at any rate, until that gets dug up, we won't know the connection. But as far as my rating goes on it, I think I'm going to round out the triumvirate here and give it a 3 as well. So 3 cannonballs. It's enjoyable for what it is, for it being a Jackie Chan action movie that kind of cribs off of Raiders of the Lost Ark and a little bit of James Bond thrown in there. And I think it was fun.
Well, Donnie couldn't be here, but he did send in some audio of his thoughts and his rating. So I'm going to go ahead and play that for you now.
I think for me, the fight scenes are great. They're actually, I've never seen it. So, I wasn't really shocked at how funny they were. But, Jackie Chan, I guess we kind of know him for, just kind of like the movies growing up, Operation Condor. That's kind of where which actually this is the prequel to Operation Condor. I believe you guys talked about.
Yeah, we talked about that. Like this one came out well before that one, but then it got re-released here in the U.S. as Operation Condor 2, Armour of God, when Operation Condor came out.
Yeah.
Although that was technically Operation Condor 2. So it's all kinds of...
Yeah, it's like missing in action.
Yep, exactly.
The beginning. Yeah. Anyway. But yeah, Jackie Chan, he can do it all, man. Well, this is kind of a little bit off topic, but Buster Keaton, he may have been, one of the first, if not the first, stuntman actor. But if he knew kung fu, he'd be right up there with Jackie Chan, all time at least.
Yeah.
But that's this ain't about Buster Keaton. This is about Jackie Chan. So so the ass sliding scene. Oh man.
Yeah, we talked about that. This isn't the Rad style. This is the Chan style ass sliding.
Yeah. Way to come full circle on the another Rad classic from 1986. But fight scenes are great.
Now keep in mind, we've talked about that earlier. This was in some way we weren't able to quite nail down exactly how, but in some way this did have something to do with Cannon. So keep that in mind with your rating. This is Cannonballs, and compared to other Cannons, even though this wasn't necessarily produced by...
it kind of drags at times, especially in the, kind of like the middle. And it kind of sucks because it really is a fun movie. It's a really fun watch. My rating system, it's got to be at least 3 if it's something I'm going to watch again. And I would absolutely watch this again. So I'm going to go with... It just kind of drags a little bit, but I'm going to go 3 1/4.
Yeah. So there you go. So that's his thoughts, and that's our ratings. So the only thing we do here for Cannon Fodder is we do the Cannon connections. Donnie's not here live, so he recorded his Cannon connections and sent them to us. So I'm gonna go ahead and play those for you now.
Cannon connections.
All right, so you actually might be kind of surprised with this one. It's very similar to one that we had a while back, which I don't remember what it was. But so on the cast side, we've got Richard Epcar. He in Armour of God, he's just listed as a voice, or like voice, I guess maybe ADR or something. I'm not exactly sure, but he was also he was the documentary narrator in The Devil's Rejects. So, and we had something similar, and it was like narrators. It was like a narrator from whatever movie that we did, and it was also I'm blanking on what it was, but a narrator, like a very similar to a past episode that we had.
I was wondering if you'd find any connections at all for this, because we haven't. I mean, because you don't really connect stuff to like Grindhouse Gutter and all that stuff, right? So we've never done any Hong Kong Chinese type stuff here on the podcast, right? So, and no Jackie Chan movies or anything like that. So, like, I wondered how many connections you could actually find for that.
Yeah, that was the only one. There were no crew, no crew connections at all. I was kind of, I mean, I can't say I was really surprised, really, but I thought, you know, once I uploaded everything to our file here, I was like, I've got to find something. Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. But yeah, it was just this Richard Epcar, who's actually, if you go on IMDb, it's, you know, EPCAR, Richard Epcar. He's got over 500 voice credits on IMDb, almost 600.
Yeah.
So he's busy.
All right, so there you go. So that'll wrap it up for the latest Cannon Fodder, and then next week we're getting back on the horror train.
Oh, what train? Oh.
The horror train, not the call girl train with May and whatever the hell was going on there. No, we're going back on the horror movies, and it's Will's choice. It's his turn in the rotation, and maybe he'll be here, maybe not, but he chose the movie, and what we're going to be talking about next week is a movie called Severance from 2006. I think I had heard of this on the periphery, but I'd never watched it until, you know, we threw this one out. So we'll see next week what our thoughts are on that and everything. So hopefully we'll have more of the gang here. So for Will and Donnie who weren't with us, Tiana, Professor Smoke, I'm Josh. We are the All-American Spook Show, and we'll talk to you next week when we watch Severance.
And now, folks, it's time to say goodnight. We sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment. Please drive home carefully and come back again soon. Good night.